I once had a good leader that said, you can't wrap your arms around the entire project.
This is the Construction Veteran Podcast. Construction Veteran Podcast. Connecting and celebrating veterans in construction. Now, here's your host, Scott Friend.
Welcome back to the Construction Veteran Podcast. I'm Scott Friend. It seems like mental health has become just a buzzword lately in construction, but we don't really talk about the details, so let's dig into it. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is going to be part one of a three-part series where I talk about mental health in the trades. And we're going to talk about anxiety and what anxiety actually looks like in construction. So anxiety in the trades, I think it rarely looks like a full-blown panic attack. I think it really often looks like checking your phone every 3 minutes, rereading the same email 5 times, waking up at 3:17 a.m., thinking about a delivery or something going on at the job, replaying conversations with a contractor in your mind, or running worst-case scenarios in your head while driving home, all these things. It looks like competence on the outside, but it's a lot of noise on the inside. And most people on the job sites don't call that anxiety necessarily. They just say, oh, you're staying sharp. But there's a big difference between awareness and agitation. I think the construction industry, whether that be the trades or general contractors, vendors, anything, they really attract anxious high performers, I'll say. The construction industry draws people who care about outcomes, things like deadlines or safety or margins, reputation, you name it. And if you care, your nervous system stays alert, right? These are some good things, but then you start adding in financial pressure, responsibility for your crews, unpredictable variables, weather, inspectors, supply chain delays, all this stuff. And we've seen a lot of that get worse over the last few years. You're not weak if your body reacts to these things. You're a human in a high-stakes environment. There's a book and a saying called The Body Keeps Score. I would suggest looking into that if you can. And I want to take a turn on that and say the body keeps score on the job site. Because the anxiety in construction is very physical before it becomes emotional. And I talked a little bit about this in my episode about screaming on the job site, where your body starts to react first. Your jaw might tighten, or your breath gets very shallow. Your shoulders might be up near your ears. Maybe you're getting acid reflux or headaches. And of course, your first reaction isn't, well, I'm anxious. You might think I'm tired or I need a day off. But if that pressure is constant, then your body really never resets. And that right there is where the trouble starts. In the industry, the responsibility follows you home. There is a constant hum of that sense of responsibility, regardless of what your title is or where you fall in the pecking order. You always have some sort of pressure on you. I mean, you might leave the job site at 3:30, 5:30, depending on where you're at or what your job is. But the job doesn't leave you. You think about, I got an inspection coming up tomorrow. Or is that trade going to show up? They've been inconsistent. Or is my client or the owner frustrated with me? Am I upsetting the tenants? Did I miss something? And it becomes background noise. It's very constant, low level, but remains unresolved. That hum right there, that's anxiety. And the problem is nobody talks about it. The culture of the trades or the construction industry, it values the toughness. And if you say you're overwhelmed, it feels like weakness. The military used to be like that too. And I would say, to a sense, it sometimes still is. But I think the military's gotten a lot better at it. The construction industry's getting better at it. Problem is, if you say you're anxious, it feels clinical. So instead of saying I'm anxious, people just say, well, I've got a lot going on. Or, man, it's a busy season. It'll calm down next month. When does next month come? I believe at its core that job site anxiety is all about control. And I think that's what affected me. I wanted everything to be perfect and to go just the way I wanted it to. The problem is construction is so unpredictable. You can plan, you can schedule and coordinate till you're blue in the face, but you can't control everything. There are so many hands that touch the product, from the manufacturing to shipping it, getting it to your site, getting it installed, and all the people around it, and the people that have to inspect it, all these different people. You can't control all that. It's impossible. I once had a good leader that said, you can't wrap your arms around the entire project. It's impossible. You have to start trusting other people to do their job. And things aren't always going to go to plan. And that mindset certainly helped me quite a bit. And I think for high responsibility personalities, especially veterans, that lack of control creates this internal tension. And our mind tries to compensate by overthinking things. Problem is, the more you think, the less you rest. And the less you rest, the worse you think. It's this cyclical, just crazy psycho thing we do to ourselves. The problem is, you got to slow down. And we don't. Now, there is definitely healthy stress out there. Yes, there's pressure. There's good pressure. Healthy stress is activating you for action. It has a direction. There's a difference there between anxiety. Anxiety activates you without a resolution. It spins without some sort of a closure. Whereas the healthy stress says, fix it. The anxiety side says, well, what if it gets worse? One moves you forward and the other one just circles you round and around. And I've talked previously about anxiety disguising itself as anger. And this really matters. A lot of folks in the industry don't experience that anxiety as a fear necessarily. They experience it as irritation. A very short fuse, low tolerance for things. They escalate things quickly. And underneath that irritation is that pressure. And underneath the pressure is this fear of failure. But fear itself is not a language I think most crews speak, so it comes out sideways. It comes out as anger. And I'll go a step further, and I think veterans feel this even differently because a lot of vets are trained for acute stress with a clear objective in mind, a clear command, very defined mission. But the construction stress is very ambiguous. There's not a clean endpoint sometimes, or no singular mission. There's all these millions of things going on. There's no structured decompression. Veterans, we don't always recognize anxiety because it doesn't look like what they trained for. But that chronic ambiguity wears differently than acute danger. And you got to start paying attention to this stuff because that unchecked anxiety will disrupt your sleep. Hear me. I'm telling you this from the heart because I've experienced it. It screwed my sleep up. It messed up my relationships and put a strain on my relationship with my wife, my kids. It causes poor decision making, overcorrection, micromanagement, health problems, all these things. And that started to stack up on me. So if anything, this is more of a testimony and telling you, don't do it to yourself. It is not worth it. And it's not because you're unstable. It's because your nervous system has been on high alert way too long. That high alert was never meant to be permanent. There's not a quick fix to this. There's micro-regulation we can talk about, but it's not a quick fix. You don't fix job site anxiety with a weekend retreat or a fishing trip for the team. What you do is you manage it in small ways. Between your phone calls or meetings or during a walk through the site, slow breathing, pausing before responding. Separate the fact from the projection. We talked about the difference in urgency and emergency. Talk facts. This stuff is subtle work, but subtle shifts will compound over time. But you've got to name it. Because sometimes anxiety loses half its strength when you just simply acknowledge it. Not publicly or dramatically. You don't have to throw it out there. But you've got to sit with yourself and say, I've got a problem. Like, hey, I'm getting tense. Something's going on. I'm carrying a lot more than I should right now. That sentence alone reduces chaos. And if you're leading crews, your anxiety is going to spread. And not because you want it to, certainly you don't, but because humans mirror their leaders. I've talked about it in the past. If you're frantic, the crew is going to be frantic. They think that's normal. That's just the way this project is. If you're escalating things quickly, they're going to brace and be ready. But if you stay measured in your thought process and the way you plan, they're going to regulate that. That anxiety is contagious, but so is the calm. What doesn't help is the people that ignore it or dismiss it or mock it, or they try to mask it with caffeine or alcohol, or they work longer to outrun it. Yeah, we joke about that kind of stuff, especially the dark veteran humor that we have. But we know it's true. These things do not resolve the anxiety. They just delay the crash that you're going to feel eventually. And the stability that you need to build, it's trained. I mean, you can build that. It's not your personality. I mean, God, ask my wife when we first met. I certainly wasn't as stable as I am now. I had to learn these things. You can build better boundaries or clearer expectations. You can learn to communicate better with your team. Or you can decompress in a structured way. You're not going to eliminate it. The anxiety will be there, but you can reduce the control it has over you. So let me talk to the person that can't slow down. Somebody who can't just turn it off. And I'm speaking to former me. If your mind won't slow down at night and your chest starts to tighten before the Monday shift comes, and you're replaying these conversations over and over in your head, you're not a fragile person. You are overloaded. And you've got to adjust. There's no shame. No shame in that at all. Just recognize it. So this is part 1 for a reason, because I think we start with anxiety because it's the most common and least discussed impact to the leaders on the job site, I believe. Yeah, we talk about mental health and we talk about suicide prevention and those types of things. But a lot of people don't really dig deep and nail it, like name it. So part 2, we're going to talk about sleep and stress and safety. And in part 3, we are going to talk about suicide prevention. We're doing that because you can't talk about those things without first talking about anxiety, because anxiety is often where it begins. So to close this out, anxiety on the job doesn't mean you don't belong in the trades or in construction. It means you give a crap. It means you care. But that caring, without regulating that, it's going to become tense. It's a good thing that you care enough about your job. You are thinking about it. I would much rather have that person and have to calm them down than the person I have to drag across the finish line. But the constant tension is not sustainable. So this is the Construction Veteran Podcast. We're building strong projects, but we're also building stronger people. I'll see you next time.